Good morning, Citylight. It's great to be here this morning. It's just good. I always say this feels like coming home to some degree. I've been able to come here, and I don't know if you guys know, but I was part of River's Edge City Group for quite a while. It's good to see them here today. I've been able to help with student ministry here and work alongside Missy, and it's just good to be back here, to be home with you guys, and just to be able to worship with you guys and just connect with some of you guys too. It was really good. I went to Paraguay with Kenan and Kelsey, and it was really good to kind of hear them tell stories of what's happening here on the west side of Council Bluffs, and just exciting to hear things that are happening with students and with all of you. And it was good also just to spend time with Kenan. I love that he's getting away and getting some breaks once in a while. You guys have an amazing pastor, and he loves you all so much. And I love that he's able to kind of get away and get some rest this weekend. I know it's been something he has needed. So as he's gone, I just pray that you would continue to pray for him and that he is kind of able to get some rest and come back refreshed and ready to serve you guys again. Anyway, it's good to be here this morning. My name is Ron. If you don't know, I'm the student director at East Council Bluffs. And they get mad at me when I say that, and I'm just supposed to say Council Bluffs. But anyway, I don't know if you guys know, that's coming to an end. I'll be done with that role in August of this year. I'm kind of excited to just be able to come and worship. I'm excited that I'll be able to kind of sneak around to different churches, hang out with you guys a little bit more, and some of the other Citylights. And I have a son that is a worship pastor at a church. I can go see him. And so I'm excited for this change. But also just trying to figure out what that's going to look like for me and where God's going to have me go next. But anyway, that's who I am, and it's good to be here this morning. Kenan asked me if I would continue in your series through the Beatitudes, and I remember there was a time at a church I served at a long time ago. I said that for like 2 months, I kept announcing, I'm going to preach the best sermon you've ever heard. And I kept saying that, and people are like, how do you know it's going to be the best sermon we've ever heard? And I go, I just know it's going to be the best sermon you have ever heard. I guarantee you. And what we did was we just read, me and the students at that church, read through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount and just broke it down with all the students. And it was a really cool Sunday. And I'm like, see, I told you it was going to be the best sermon you've ever heard. Now, I don't know if I can say that today, but I am excited that I get to come out of this message that Jesus shared and share one of these Beatitudes. And I got, blessed are the peacemakers. And I asked Kenan, so do you want me to preach it that way, or do you want me to preach it like, blessed are the peacekeepers? And Kenan and I talked for quite a while because I'm like, that's different, isn't it? And he goes, yeah, it is. And I hope today we really understand what it is to be a peacekeeper. Not a peacekeeper, but a peacemaker. And I hope that we understand, as I was reading this, I think we tend to look at that and think, yeah, they're a peacemaker, and they're a peacemaker, and maybe she's a peacemaker, and he's a peacemaker, but really, we are all called to be peacemakers. And so if you hear nothing else today, I pray that you hear that. We are all called to be peacemakers. All right, so I was thinking about this, and I got to thinking about my family growing up on my mom's side. They're the Stogdales. And we would have these family gatherings, picnics and Christmas and birthdays and all the holidays together. And it was crazy because there were so many of us in these tiny little houses we would meet in. And it would get so loud all the time. It wasn't peaceful at all. And you might walk in and think it's because of all the kids running around. But that wasn't why there was no peace in this house. And I look back here, my dad's here today, and I'm calling him out. Man, it was the dads. Like, they were the loud ones. They were the noisy ones. Like, you could guarantee, like, there was going to be a political argument happening, and they're all going to be yelling at each other and screaming, ah, and I'm like, oh, man. Or if the political stuff wasn't happening, it was going to be the football team and who the best quarterback is and who the best team is. And if it wasn't that, it was going to be, is it Dodge, Chevy, or Ford? Come on. And they would just go at it. And my mom, and I think some of the other moms would sometimes, like, maybe send the kids in there, and hey, go sit by your dad for a minute. And I think we were supposed to be the peacemakers, maybe calm our dads down a little bit and get them to be like, hey guys, slow down a little bit. It was just a crazy time. And I think, that's not quite what we're looking at Peacemakers today too. But I think that we live in a world where there's just always so much going on, so much tension and so much conflict. And there's one thing everybody in this room I know has experienced, and that is conflict. Children experience conflict. Teenagers experience conflict. Parents experience conflict. Grandparents experience conflict. We live in a world filled with tension. We see it when siblings argue over a toy. We see it when friendships fall apart. We see it in marriages, and we see it in our jobs. And man, like if you're on social media and all, we see it online. There's just always tension. And sometimes, like it really feels like everybody is angry, and they're angry about like anything. And if we're honest, sometimes the greatest conflict isn't necessarily what's around us, it's what's happening within us. Like sometimes it's worry, it's fear, it's bitterness, it's regret, anxiety. We live in a world that is filled with tension. And into that world, Jesus speaks these words: "Blessed are the peacemakers." And that's what we're hanging out with today. Notice what Jesus doesn't say. He doesn't say, "Blessed are the peace lovers. Blessed are the peace wishers. Blessed are the people who avoid conflict." He says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Because peace, man, it doesn't happen accidentally. Peace is something like that has to be pursued. Peace is something that must be made. And today, I want us to see 3 truths from within this verse. And the first one is this: we live in a world that is filled with tension. The reason peacemakers are needed is because conflict exists. And the Bible tells us why it exists in Genesis chapter 3. Sin entered the world. And ever since that, every relationship has been affected. Our relationship with God, our relationship with others, and our relationship within ourselves have been affected because sin has entered the world. And sin always creates separation. Sin always creates division, and sin always creates conflict. And because sin has broken so much in our world, we have to ask this important question: what does real peace actually look like? Is peace simply the absence of conflict? Is it getting people to stop arguing? Is that what peace is? The Bible gives us a much clearer and richer picture in the Old Testament. The word often used for peace is the word shalom. Shalom means much more than the absence of conflict. It speaks of wholeness. It speaks of restoration, of reconciliation, and harmony. And life as God intended it to be. That's what shalom is speaking into: peace. And that kind of peace always costs something. Someone has to take the first step. Someone has to forgive. Someone must absorb the hurt. Someone must move towards reconciliation. And that brings us to the greatest peacemaker who has ever lived. And the greatest peacemaker who has ever lived is Jesus Christ. Which brings us to our second truth today. Jesus made peace for us. The heart of Christianity is not that Jesus taught peace. The heart of Christianity is that Jesus made peace. Listen to Colossians 1:19 and 20. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. Romans 5:1 says this: therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. And Ephesians 2:14 says, for he himself is our peace. Jesus didn't simply just tell us how to live. Jesus came to rescue us. The Bible says that that sin has separated us from God. We were not merely struggling people needing advice. We were sinners needing salvation. Yet God did not leave us in our rebellion. God moved towards us, and God sent his son for us. Years ago, missionaries Don and Carol Richardson traveled to Papua New Guinea to live among the Sawi people. And Sawi people lived in constant conflict, like their tribes just couldn't get along. They were always just at each other, kind of like the Stockdale family men. But the Sawi people were in constant conflict. And one thing that shocked the missionaries, the Sawi people, they admired like betrayal. When Don Richardson told them the story of Jesus, many of them thought Judas was the hero of this story because he had so successfully deceived Jesus. Like Judas is the hero, according to the Sawi people. And the missionaries were devastated. How could they explain the gospel to people who viewed betrayal as a strength? And then one day, this conflict erupted between two of the tribes. And war seemed imminent, but something remarkable happened. The chiefs of the tribes gathered together, and one chief stepped forward carrying his small child. And he said he had the other tribe take his child. And he decided that if my child is there and my child is safe and you're taking care of my child, then we would always be at peace. And so he gave this child to make sure that peace would be what they would experience. And this child was known as the peace child. The child would have lived among them and been safe, and as long as he was safe, that chief knew things were okay and they would be at peace. And suddenly the gospel became very clear. God had done something very similar. God sent his son into a hostile world. Jesus came into enemy territory. Romans 5:10 says this, if while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his son, much more now that we are reconciled, shall we be saved by his life. Church, Jesus is the true peace child. He came for us. He died for us. He rose again for us. And through him, we can now have peace with God. And maybe somebody here today, you needed to hear this. Like you've been carrying guilt, shame, regret, wondering, would God ever forgive you? And the answer, yes. Yes. Not because your sin is small, but because Jesus is a great Savior. Peace with God is available through faith in Jesus Christ. And when we receive the peace, like that peace, something changes. We become people who bring his peace to other people. Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." This leads us into the third truth today. We are called to bring peace. It's not like just one of us is a peacemaker, or maybe that person's a peacemaker. We are all called to bring peace. We are all called to be peacemakers. Now, let me be clear. Peacemaking is not avoiding conflict. Some people think peace means pretending that nothing is wrong, but that isn't biblical peace at all. Sometimes peacemaking requires difficult conversations. Sometimes it means saying, "Look, I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and would you please forgive me?" I could remember a long time ago in my student ministry, I had a student that he and I just kind of got into this little political debate. And we were just kind of going back and forth with each other. And this kid's like a 9th, 10th grade kid. And man, I had to be right. I knew I was right. And I wasn't going to walk out of that conversation having him one-up me. I had to be right. in that moment, I was the one that wanted to be right. And I don't even remember what it was about. I don't really know if I was right or not, but I wanted to be right that day. And I got to tell you, something happened. I never saw that student again. I never had him come back to our student ministry. And years later, it didn't hit me right away, but it did hit me. I wondered, man, was it because I had to be right? Like, was it because, what I wanted, me being right mattered more than he mattered in that moment? Was that why he left? And it just haunted me. You will see me in student ministry. I never get in those debates anymore. I never have to be that guy that has to win that argument. I always will put students first now. And that just marked me. And I love God in his kindness. Years later, as a full-grown man, he's a teacher now in Iowa. I got to see this student again. And I knew, I had to sit down with that kid, an adult now, and say how sorry I was. I was so sorry that in that moment, I mattered more than he mattered. In that moment, me being right mattered more than, his salvation. And I just had to apologize. And so we talked, and he thanked me. He said, Ron, I appreciate you saying that. That's not why I quit coming to youth group. I just didn't think it was very fun. Anyway, I did learn from that. And I did have an opportunity to share the gospel with Alex again. I was grateful for God giving me that moment to just say I was sorry. I was grateful for what I learned in that. So sometimes peacemaking, it's you saying, are you making the first move? Man, I messed up. I didn't get that right. I'm sorry. Would you please forgive me? Sometimes it means speaking truth in love. Peacemaking is not appeasement. Some people think peace means avoiding hard conversations or ignoring sin and so that nobody gets upset. But that's not biblical peace. If a child gets a splinter, a loving parent doesn't ignore it. The splinter has to come out before the healing can happen. In the same way, real peace is built on truth. Sometimes peacemaking requires difficult conversations, honest repentance, and genuine forgiveness. Peacemakers don't ignore problems. They help bring healing to those problems. Jesus was full of grace and truth. Peacemakers do not abandon the truth to keep everyone happy. Real peace is always built on truth. And peacemaking, it's not passive. Peace doesn't happen by accident. Peacemakers move forward towards brokenness. They pursue reconciliation. And one of the greatest examples of this is Barnabas. Before Saul became the Apostle Paul, he actually persecuted Christians. People feared him. Families had suffered because of him. And then Jesus transformed Saul's life. But when he came to Jerusalem, nobody trusted him. And can you blame them? Here's this guy that had killed Christians. Families were torn apart because of him, and now he's coming into their church. And of course, they're like, man, no, we're not good with this. But Barnabas, most people wanted to distance themselves from him, but Barnabas did something different. He stepped into the tension. He welcomed Saul. He advocated for Saul. He helped the church see what God was doing through Saul. The church saw Paul's past. Barnabas saw the grace of God. So later, Barnabas did the same thing with a guy named John Mark. When others gave up on him, including Paul himself, Paul wanted nothing to do with him. Barnabas believed restoration was possible. And years later, Paul would write this, "Get Mark and bring him with you, for he is very useful to me." Barnabas was a peacemaker. He believed that God could restore people. Church, there are people in your life who need someone to believe that God is not finished with them yet. Someone to believe that God's not done with them yet. That is peacemaking. 2 Corinthians 5:20 says this, Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. We are ambassadors for Christ, and ambassadors represent another kingdom, and we represent the kingdom of peace, the kingdom of the Prince of Peace. We carry his message, we carry his grace, and we carry his reconciliation. So let me speak to our children and students for just a moment. You can be peacemakers too. At school, you can include somebody who's sitting by themselves and they're off alone by themselves. You can refuse to join in on the gossip. You can choose kindness. You can stand against bullying. You can apologize when you're wrong. And you can forgive somebody who possibly has hurt you. You can be the first one to forgive. Students, the world teaches that you fight for attention. Jesus teaches that you pursue peace. And parents, I know we all get this. Children learn more from what we do than what we say. They watch how we handle frustration. They watch how we speak during disagreements. And they watch how we treat one another. Imagine homes filled with the peace of Christ. Imagine a church filled with the peace of Christ. Imagine a community filled with people who bring peace instead of disagreements, instead of division. That is what Jesus is calling us to. Jesus promises, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God and daughters of God." When we live this way, we reflect our Father. People should see something different in us, not because we're perfect, but because we belong to Jesus. The world knows how to divide. The world knows how to cancel. The world knows how to escalate conflict. But followers of Jesus should know how to reconcile, because that is exactly what Jesus has done for us. And maybe before you can become a peacemaker, you need peace with God. The good news of the gospel is that Jesus came for sinners. He lived the life we could not live. He died the death that we deserved. He rose again in victory. And today, peace with God is available through him. The true peace child has come, and his invitation is open to all of you. Blessed are the peacemakers. May we be people who carry the peace of Jesus into the world that desperately needs him. Blessed are the peacemakers, for you will be called sons of God. For you will be called daughters of God. Blessed are the peacemakers. I hope today that you've heard from God. I hope today that we get, I'm guilty. I'm the guy that thought, they'd be a good peacemaker. They'd be a good peacemaker. I never really thought of it till I studied for this passage, for this message. We're all called to be peacemakers. In a world full of tension, we have what people are looking for, and we have the ultimate peacemaker. I'll never forget a student that came to me one time. Her dad was a pastor at another church in town, and somehow she ended up in my student ministry. And man, that in itself caused me to just question and wonder. And so one time we talked with each other for quite a while. And she admitted to me that her and her boyfriend had gotten into some trouble. They had made some mistakes. And that these mistakes were big. And because of that, in the church that she grew up in the church where her pastor was, she just got a lot of looks and a lot of shame and just didn't feel right being there. But she still wanted to be close to God. She still wanted to be near to Jesus. She still wanted that, but there was also this struggle in her, this tension in her. And she asked me, she just looked at me and she said, "Ron, does he still love me? Do I still get to come to Jesus? Is he going to be able to forgive me?" And I was able to look at her as an ambassador of Christ and say, "Look, yes, you're good. Jesus went to a cross for you, and he went to a cross for this reason. And because of Jesus, that thing, that's not how God sees you. That's not what God sees. God sees the blood of his son. He sees you as perfect and righteous and forgiven. Yes, you are still a child of God. Yes, you are still loved by Jesus. And yes, he wants so much to be near you. In a world full of tension, in a world where people feel like he's a distant God and he doesn't care about me, I've messed up too many times, we need to be peacemakers. No, he loves you. And he chases after you. He pursues you. He loves you so much that he gave his life. He took the price. He took the punishment. He took the pain for what we deserved. Like he got all the bad stuff, we get all the good stuff. Because of what Jesus did for us, the ultimate peacemaker, we are called to be peacemakers in a world full of tension. Guys, let's take some of that away and be peacemakers, people that bring hope and let people know there's something more, there's something better. And for people who think, man, I'm too far gone, I've done too many things, that they would know, no, not for God. Like he would chase you. He chases the one. He never gives up on you. And I can tell you so many times where I'm like, God, you're so far, and I turn around, he's right there. He's like, I'm still here. I still got you guys. I just hope we've heard from him today. We are all called to be peacemakers because of what Jesus Christ did for us, because he reconciled us to God. That is what we are called to do, to reconcile all of the people around us who are struggling, who are hurting, to reconcile them to God. Will you pray with me?